Um, this is the book. That's the word problem, isn't it, with virtual backgrounds? The story about this book is that about maybe the end of last year, I get this message from Dylan, the author, and he asked if he could send me this golf book called Hit the Ball, and I said absolutely. And the reason was he just wanted me to. I don't think at the time he told me I was mentioned in it, but if you are going to then try and find out where I am, it'll take you a long time. Let me tell you, it's a half a line. So it's not about me in any way, but I think, he just wanted to send me the book, let me read at it and get some feedback on it. And I found it absolutely fascinating. And I know that's not been the case with everyone, because I've shared it with someone else and they didn't. And that's fine, because that again is just the way of it. But it was, for some of you who haven't read it, I know you have, Paul, but yeah, it was completely different than any other golf book I've read. I'm not even sure if it was a golf book really, but it's under the guise of a golf book. And I thought it'd be great to get Dylan on and have a chat with him about it and just see where this came from. Dylan is a PGA pro like ourselves, or most of us, and a coach. But his story is pretty amazing, and how this book came about and just what the book is about. And if you haven't got it, then you need to go onto Amazon and get it. And because I listen to my books because of my dyslexia, it took me about a month to read it. Sorry, Dylan. Because I've got to read every page 3 times, so it takes me 3 times longer than everybody else to read it. But yeah, definitely worth sticking in the Amazon for tomorrow and have a look at it and listen to it and give us your feedback on it. But without ado, I want to just ask Dylan to come on and chat about this. Hopefully I've asked you there to unmute, Dylan.
Unmute.
I had to ask you about your name, Dylan, and that was this evening, so I'm nothing like being prepared. I did it right at the end. I said, I've got the Dylan bit. The surname was Bawden, so I wasn't sure of that, but Bowden is okay, is it?
Yeah, Bowden's good.
The middle name was Kunzak, which I knew definitely wasn't Scottish, so I didn't know where that came from, but I believe it's of German extract. So there's a few probably listening this evening that are in your homeland or damn close to it, if not. I know Eric is, and Ulf and Martin, so you can burst into German at any time, and at least some of the guys will understand. Welcome to our little group, and thank you for taking the time, because I know you're an hour ahead of us. But I suppose just to get going, maybe a little bit of a backstory with you, just where you came from and how you ended up where you are, and then we'll maybe go into the book. But just where has Dylan been? How did you come about as a golf pro like us?
It all started in 1972.
Wow.
I was interested in the Gavin story. That was good. So I mean, again, it's belief systems, isn't it? Belief systems, what people actually believe the golf swing is and how it should be. That book came out because I actually got to university in Kingston, where I started a 3-year degree program, and during that time I was taught the golf swing, sort of a technical way of looking at it. That was 92. That was when Nick Faldo was doing so well. That's when Ledbetter was a big thing. And so being a sort of a young 20-year-old aspiring pro, I got into the idea of learning the correct swing. I then worked with Vivian Saunders up in Cambridge, and she was giving a completely opposite message, talking about Mark James and Eamon Darcy and these sorts of players, but I didn't quite understand what she was talking about. So I was guilty of believing the golf swing would bring me to the high places of Nick Faldo. So what happened then is that my golf deteriorated. I got worse playing myself. I actually started playing PGA events, and I was hitting the ball left, right. I was hitting all over the place. Didn't know what was going on. Practiced 6, 7 hours a day, desperately trying to do what the coach had taught me, and I was just getting worse and worse and worse and worse, and eventually deteriorated to the point where I didn't really want to go and play. And during that time, I started to get this idea, hearing people talk, that it wasn't necessarily true that learning this golf swing that I was learning was the right thing to do. I then started to think about what Vivian was telling me, and then I started to read books on the subject. So I started to realize that tour pros have gone down the route of changing their swings and falling apart and never returning onto the stage. And then from that, I started to read into learning itself, education, philosophy, and all sorts of things, which brought me to write a dissertation on the whole subject of why we learn this way. You know, why do we think that we need to learn the rules of the golf swing? And a lot of it, I think, is to do with the educational system, that we just believe that if a teacher is saying this is how it should be, it's a kind of authoritative position. And as a student, you're going to believe everything that they tell you. So you're just going to do it. You're not going to question it.
So, Dylan, just to interrupt you, were you then, you were still a student at this point, giving this a dissertation?
Yeah, I was still a student at that time. Yeah, so that was 1990, 92, 93, around about 94. Yeah, okay. 1994, yeah, at university.
So you were writing this whilst also trying to become a PGA golf pro?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, the preliminary ideas, yes, while trying to become a PGA pro. And I can just jump in. I ended up with problems there. I mean, the PGA were actually giving me some problems. My assignments weren't written as they wished them to be written. I was writing ideas that Vivian Saunders was very interested in, and they were actually failing me for writing stuff that I thought was beneficial. You know, it's a bit like what Gavin was just saying about thinking about striking the mat. If I wrote that into an assignment, I was actually failed on actually writing something of that sort. So yes, I was a student. I was very curious as to what it all meant. And so that's when I put this dissertation together in 95. Wasn't well received at all. I ended up going to university in 2000 again. So now as a mature student at the age of 28, where I put the dissertation together again. And at that point, that's when I had the idea of the book. So it was a sort of a fictional story that goes along the ideas that I put together in the dissertation. So it's a fictional story of somebody, well, you have to read it, obviously, Paul's read it, of a kid, a young boy, finding out for himself that the system that this golf swing is being taught is actually wrong. That it's not beneficial to the golfing world.
But he's not a young kid in England, or well, he might. No, he's not. He's not a young kid in England in the 1980s or 90s, is he?
Are we talking about myself?
No. I'm talking about Joseph. So he obviously comes from a different era.
Yeah, he's coming from the beginning. So that I'm actually talking about why is it that we spend so much time, like Gavin was saying, why is it we're spending so much time looking at the golf swing objectively and trying to study the movements of the golf swing? So that's the thing that gets thrown at me every day. People will say, yeah, but why am I taught that way? Why am I looking at it that way? Why do we have it like that? And my answer is just that it's a scientific way of looking at it, and science comes from Aristotle and Plato and Socrates. And so the story starts there. That's where the story starts, as you know.
Yeah, and obviously I don't want to give anything away that you don't want to be given away, but yeah, I mean, we're back in Greek mythology, really. Not mythology, no, philosophy. Not, I said mythology. They don't. It's not mythical. It's actually reality, isn't it? I suppose.
Yeah.
So the other thing that interested me about the book was, and one of the reasons I called you, because you mentioned in the book, or you named some people in the book as if, as if you'd known them. And that fascinated me because I thought, wow, Dylan's obviously got to these tour pros and spoken to them, and he's obviously got to all these fascinating philosophers and golf coaches, but none of that was necessarily true, was it? And that was interesting because I just presumed that you would have had to have permission to actually mention these guys in the way that you did, and none of it was anything other than very positive. But that's not the case, is it? Which was really that surprised me. You don't need to ask them, do you?
No, I don't. I mean, like I said, I thought I did. I did try to get hold of them. One of them's dead. We were talking about Timothy Galway. He's 88 now. But I did do my research and eventually found out that people do use real life characters in their books, in fictional books, and as long as they don't slander them or talk about them negatively, it's fine. You're entitled to use people in your fictional books as real characters if you are complimentary towards them.
And are you happy to mention the tour pro to the guys, or would you rather they searched out in the book?
Paul Broadhurst.
I was just wondering if you, because yeah, it was obviously a name. As soon as I saw it, I thought, wow, this is amazing. Have you sent Paul a book?
No, I mean, do you know him?
We could definitely get a book to him. There's no
that'd be fantastic. Yeah, I would love it. Yeah, really.
Yeah, well, a couple of the guys, in fact, one of the, I don't think he's on tonight, but one of the members is a European on the board of the European Tour and a European Tour member. So he'll have a way of contacting Paul and letting him know, and maybe you two can get in touch. I think he'd be quite interested in it as well.
Yeah, this is what this guy.
And then the lawsuit can continue.
Yeah, exactly. I can't wait.
But the thing about the book was, you know, for a very simple Glaswegian, because you're not talking to Stephen Orr here, you're talking to Kendal Mcwade. And I did, it kind of a couple of times was tripping me up thinking, I'm getting slightly lost here. And you did, when you came back to me after I said I'd read it, you said, did you understand it? Which I thought, I did, I really did. I got it. But you told me, and hopefully this wasn't just for the Scottish audience, but you told me you had dumbed it down quite a bit. So was that just for my country, or is that that version that they can get in Germany and Holland where they're more intelligent?
It's just the general population.
Oh, is it? Okay. But it is. You said it was simpler. I mean, God help it. What was the other one like?
Oh, it's just illegible. You just wouldn't understand it. I mean, I was kind of, even if I would leave it for like 2 or 3 months and think, oh, I'll go back to it, and then I'll start going through it and thinking, Jesus Christ, I can't believe I gave that to people to actually read, to actually give me some sort of appraisal. It was just, you know, you just couldn't understand it. So I ended up, I reckon it went backwards and forwards like 40 times in a day just to have certain paragraphs watered down and watered down and watered down until it was just very basic, simple ideas for philosophies. I mean, philosophy can get quite difficult. So I was trying to give the sort of very, very simple point of what Socrates and Aristotle were doing in their time, you know, and to say that now, I mean, they were just trying to define reality. They were trying to define what the external world around us is, and those are the sentences and words that were actually used at the time. So that's how I see the golf swing. I see it as something objective that we look at. We tend to see things objectively.
And I know your beliefs, like many of us, and I shared my challenges with the PGA over the years, but what you started to believe in had quite an impact on the journey you took from a coaching perspective, isn't it? It's not been a nice, even, comfortable journey, has it?
No, ever since I met Paul Hunt, it became really difficult.
There we go, Paul.
No, it's yeah, you'll see that in the book. That's all. The interesting thing that there's in the book is that biography, isn't it? It's sort of like a little chapter of my biography. I actually had that out at one point. Somebody was saying, I think that's a bit dark. I don't think it's necessary. You should just keep it as a fictional story. Then a few people read that bit and they were like, no, Dill, I think you should put it in and actually just, you know, show your story, show it how the world actually takes, which is the same as Gavin talking about these people that sort of, you know, they're interested, but they just go straight back to the other world. Of course they will. And that's my problem, is that the more I sort of push it and say, hey, we've got to look at this, we've got to use hockey sticks, or we've got to work on impact striking, don't worry about your backswing. I actually get pushed and shoved and gagged and sacked. so
it's astonishing, isn't it? Especially when obviously the success that you were having was tangible, and still that wasn't enough, was it? So beliefs are incredibly powerful and dangerous things, aren't they? And it is so dangerous to challenge beliefs, really, from a perspective of if you want to stay where you are and remain comfortable in your little surroundings, then probably challenging somebody's beliefs is the last thing to do, especially the culture of golf's beliefs. They're pretty substantial. It's not as if you've got a little stream. It's it's Niagara Falls coming down your head, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And people ask if it's different everywhere else. And you're talking about the German guys that are on, if they're listening now. I mean, that was when you're living in a sort of I am half German, so I'm not going to insult anybody. So the Germans are very mechanical thinking, so they do actually want to know precisely what's going on. So to actually say to them, no, don't worry about all that, just take the club and hit the ball, and we just go on from there, is unacceptable. You know, they actually want it mechanically explained.
Well, I think you'll find some guys that are in Germany just now and probably listening who sympathise and have probably found a way maybe to manage it. So
yeah, I'd be interested to know how.
Yeah. I suppose then a big question, because it's a fable, it's a story, it's a journey that I didn't think I'd ever be reading about Greek mythology and trying to relate it to golf and learning golf. And I said mythology again, I should have said philosophy. Sorry, a bit mythology in the head here. But I think one of the things I put the book down and I thought, that was cool. That drew me in. I was there. I was in the chats with Tim Galway, and I was on the range at the Masters or whatever else it was. It was lovely. The overriding question I thought at the end of it was, so why did you write that? Who have you written that for? Because it's not a book that somebody's going to pick up and then think, wow, I now know how to fix my golf swing. So it's not a fault and fix as David Ledbetter. And in it, there's almost no probably tangible thing to hang your playing, learning, skill acquisition hat on. And as a coach, there's probably nothing in there that you could use. So I suppose, where do you see that book going? Who's it for? Is it just a nice story?
Yeah.
What made you write it like that, and what were you hoping that it would achieve, if achieves the right word?
Originally, I think I might have written in there. Originally, what are cult books or cult films? Star Wars. Originally, I was going to sell 60 million copies and become extremely rich.
Good.
That's the original idea.
Nothing wrong with that.
But then over the years, just realizing that the golfing world is not really accepting this sort of thing. I mean, I think the inner game of golf is quite big, isn't it? I mean, it's a cult book. I know Golf in the Kingdom. That was a great book. Golf in the Kingdom by Michael Murphy. So I mean, that was touching on stuff, and it was a story. Well, it's a real story. I know it's a real story, but just interesting stuff in there. There was another book called The Golfer and the Millionaire. Have you ever seen it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Read it.
So I started reading those books, and then things like The Alchemist or Jonathan Livingston Seagull. Do you know that book?
No, Paolo, I know, but I don't know.
So they're just sort of cult books that are small with a story, And I always felt that it might just be an interesting, like you say, something different, that it's based around golf, but it's got a story. And I think if you read it twice, you might sort of get an idea, this is actually touching on science and philosophy, and it's touching on why we teach this way, and so on and so forth. That when you put the book down, you think, that's interesting. That's it. And like you say, that you're not going to go run down and start playing great golf after reading that book. It's nothing to do with that.
I suppose what I liked about it was it resonated. And I think, most of the guys listening tonight, and a lot of coaches that we know, and a lot of the guys that are not managing on this evening, it'll resonate with them. And I suppose it doesn't give an answer, it just poses more questions. And yeah, it really did kind of sit very comfortably with me right through the whole thing. So that's why I really enjoyed it. And it was very kind of you even to mention me, because we had never met, which was, I had in my head that I had met you at university in the 90s, but that was not that I was at university, but I was presenting, and I did so a couple of universities, and I thought you were one in the audience, but that wasn't the case, was it? You just heard about me through YouTube or some nonsense?
No, I saw you on television. Yeah, I saw on Sky TV way back in 2002, giving a footballer a golf lesson. It was he was hitting the ball. I think he was hitting the ball left or something, and then you said, right, I'll tell you what we're doing wrong after the break. The break came, we came on, and then suddenly you said, well, the reason you're hitting it left is because you are hitting it left. And I thought, that's interesting. So I rang you, and we had a long conversation about your journey. Yeah. So you always stuck in my head. And I think that was another thing about the book. Another thing about the book was that, and I'm sure this happens with the other guys, that because I'm saying different things to students, that they seem to think, especially here, because it's not a golfing nation, that they think that I'm the only one that talks this way. I'm the only one that puts golf across this way. And I'm saying, no, this is Ernest Jones back in 1920s. You've got Manuel Del Toro, you've got Henry Cotton, you've got Vivian Saunders, you've got Kendal McWade, there's AJ Boner, there's many. They're all out there. It's just that they're not standing on the stage. The general teaching doesn't seem to work that way. So I wanted to put the book together as well to sort of, when people read it, they think, hang on, this is not just Dylan's way or method. This is actually a big subject. It's been out there for more than a century, isn't it? I think.
And just to let the guys know, you're actually talking to us from Austria.
I'm in Vienna.
Yeah. So you've moved on, and all will be revealed in the book how you ended up there. But well, look, I know we've only literally dipped our toe in the hit the ball story, but I suppose the next question would be that, given it's taken 22 years or thereabouts to come to fruition, is that right?
Yeah.
When's the second book?
Yeah, exactly.
So, because I'm not going to be around that long. If it's going to be another 22 years, I might not be able to read by that point. So you need to hurry up with the next one. So, no, if there's never another one, it doesn't matter, because I thoroughly enjoyed it. I recommend it to the guys. I really do. And thank you for coming and sharing a little bit of your story with it. I know we've gone on, as always, a little bit longer than we should have, but we're going to open it up if we can, just to the general public. Guys, anyone still there? I'm going to unmute you all.
Everyone's gone.
Yeah, they've all gone. You can unmute yourselves, actually. Well, has anyone read the book?
I bought it and have started reading it.
Good. Hi, Michael.
And I do have a question for Dylan too when we have a chance.
Come on, fire away.
I was just wondering, Dylan, if what your inspiration was, because obviously you have an attraction to Greek philosophy, and I was wondering, because I read the first couple chapters, and the first thing I could think about was, it sounds like something like Plato's Republic was the model for this. And some of the discussion tonight about Socrates and the like comes back to Gavin. One quote that I remember from my uni days is, you can't persuade those who don't listen. which probably is something that resonates with a lot of you teachers. And as well, I think with a lot of that stuff, a lot of the messages that, for a teacher and a philosophy teacher, the best thing you can do is turn your students into philosophers themselves, that they can think for themselves without being spoon-fed or given information. But the first question really is just, what was your inspiration from, your philosophy studies that led you to the book?
As you get to the end of the book, the last character is Robert M. Pirsig. So he is the guy that wrote Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance.
Yep. Cool.
So that's the book. That's the book that got me. I read that when I was about 18. I think I read it again when I was 19. And then things started to click with that book. There's a cult book talking about education, talking about how he was.
It's a great book.
Do you know it? Okay, good. So basically, I've plagiarized that book.
Fantastic.
But that's a book that, it's difficult, isn't it? I mean, I think you need to read it 2 or 3 times before you really get what he's saying. And that's what I was kind of doing, realizing that he's making a point. And then I started to realize, I can actually use that. And that then brought me to a few other people as well who were saying the same thing.
Right, got it.
But I hope that answers the question.
It does, yeah. Cheers.
Brilliant.
Anyone else, guys? Gav, Cousins, you're definitely going to do us off.
Thank you.
Ulf's in Germany, so he knows the challenges, as is Martin, as is Pete at the bottom there, walking around his house. So yeah, a few of the guys, and I don't think it's just a German thing, if we're honest.
No.
People's insatiable appetite for information and for YouTube videos and tips and hints is, insatiable, as I say, because it's easier, it's quicker, isn't it? If I know what I'm doing wrong, I can go, I can fix it. But the actual time and task that Gavin's talking about to actually see what's happening. So this is what happened when I tried to hit the mat in this particular spot, and then take the time and to try and change that, to see a change occurring, but the deep-seated conditioned response and motor pattern is still running there if it's allowed to run, and of course it does when the environment tends to change, and it's getting to that point where that's replaced, so that what Gav's pupils are then doing is just, that's their default motion. When I see something to hit, this is how I move my golf club, because that's, that's the ideal, isn't it? That's where we want them to be. So they're just responding with a new movement pattern that has been replaced or has replaced the old movement pattern. But it's not going to happen if they don't take time and effort to do it. But it should be fun, shouldn't it? It's not that they're trying to fix anything. It's just like a new skill they're trying to learn. And that's what they're unfortunately probably missing the point of, isn't it? We're not trying to fix shortened backswings or lengthened backswings, and we're just trying to get better at using the tool to try and solve this particular problem we're faced with. And I know you talk a lot about in the book about using the tool. It's like learn to use the tool, and that is it, I suppose, in a nutshell. It's just a weird looking tool. And we chatted, or you mentioned AJ Bonner, and I remember way back getting the AJ Bonner videos, and I went back and looked at a few last night. He's a big into his tools and how the tool operates, and whether you buy into all this stuff or not, it's pretty aligned in the way he sees the game, isn't it? And
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's funny with Gavin talking about the heel and the toe. I mean, I went back to AJ Boner 2 or 3 months later. I had a friend who couldn't stop shanking it. He was a pro, couldn't stop shanking it. Terrible, actually. We were trying to have match play, and every time he'd shank the ball, I'd ask him to stop shanking it because we can't actually have a match. So anyway, we ended up at AJ Boner's, and he was just talking about hitting it on the toe and just desperately, trying to get him to get that feeling of hitting the toe right on the edge. So it was the same thing, just working on that. He was looking for every trick in the book, and he couldn't find one. In the end, that was the trick. Hit it off the toe. That was it.
Does Dylan, do you enjoy playing golf now? Are you still playing much?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do.
He gets a tea time, you know, no problem, because he always likes. No. So that helps. That definitely helps.
Good one, yeah.
Unless anyone else has anything to add, I've got a husky to go out in an absolute blizzard. There's another blizzard in Glasgow. I cannot believe it. We've been under snow for about 3 or 4 weeks. So the only one that's happy in our household is the husky. He thinks he's died and gone to Siberia. So thank you for everyone's interest and questions and